Yes, I asked you guys, would you want me to do a review of the newest season of Bridgerton season 3? And some of you were like, okay, do it. Not a lot of you though, but I said, you know what? I'm going to talk about it because I want to talk about it. Those of you on WhatsApp already know that I have bored you with the talk of Bridgerton. So why don't I also talk about it here on YouTube? Yes. So a lot of people, I see a lot of reviews online. People were like, oh, I mean, it's supposed to be about Colin and Penelope, but they did not give us enough of Colin and Penelope. The intimate scenes were not as spicy as we wanted. Why did they divide it into two parts? So people were really not feeling the part 2, especially. They were like, it left a lot to be desired. There was so many sub stories. There was so many loose ends they wanted to tie. It was like it was rushed, and I can understand that because I wanted more, but that will not take away the fact that it was a brilliant season. Yes, guys. So it was not just about romance like the typical Bridgerton story. This one was actually very different, and it hit home, especially for me. Yes, guys, because we saw a lot of themes being explored. Of course, there was romance, of course, between Penelope and Colin. There was also betrayal because at some point, Colin found out that Penelope was actually, or is actually Lady Whistledown. Yes, we saw reconciliation because it took a lot of time for Colin to actually come back, to say, okay, you know what? I have finally accepted you, Penelope, even though you are Lady Whistledown. It took a whole lot. We saw sisterhood. We saw female friendship. We saw mother and daughter bond. You know what? I'm just going to be talking about this in this video. Not really giving you a lot of spoilers if you have not seen it, but really talking about what hit home for me in the season of Bridgerton. So let's start with Colin and Penelope. Penelope has always loved Colin. Like, since we met Penelope in season 1, she has always been in love with this guy. She placed him on a pedestal. Season 2 ending, her heart was broken because of what he said. Now in season 3, Colin comes back acting like a brand new person because he feels like somehow people do not get who he is. So he has to put on this persona just like his two elder brothers, Benedict and Anthony, so that he would fit in. But guess what? Penelope was not buying that new act. He comes back trying to rekindle the friendship he has with his childhood bestie, Penelope, but he didn't know that Penelope actually overheard the nonsense he said at the Federington ball last season, and she confronted him. I love the way she said, "Good night, Mr. Bridgerton." Now he said, what am I going to do to make this right? What am I going to do to make the friendship we have, rekindle? And the best way he came up with was, okay, let me help you get a man. Let me help you get a husband because that is what you need. Now, Penelope has been in the marriage market for 3 seasons, no man. So she's not being considered a wallflower. Basically, he's helping her get this man. And in the process of helping her get this man, he falls in love with her the moment she asks him for a kiss because she thinks, you know what, I'm not going to be getting married. I'm just going to be dying as spinster. Just give me this kiss. Let me know what it feels like to be kissed, basically. And that was it. It was the ending or a wrapping up of her feelings for Colin, but the beginning of Colin's feelings for her. Crazy. Colin goes home and starts daydreaming about Penelope. It's crazy. Did I say daydream now? Having raunchy dreams about Penelope. Very, very crazy. Now, guess what? In this whole thing, in comes Lord Devlin, who also not looking for love. He wants to travel and have a woman at home that will take care of his estate. Basically, Cressida, who is also interested in Lord Devlin, because her family is like, Madam, if you do not get married, we are going to ship you to the oldest man of the town. Basically, yeah. So Cressida is friends with Eloise. You already know Eloise and Penelope besties, but they had their differences because Eloise discovered that Penelope is Lady Whistledown last season. And you know what Penelope wrote about Eloise last season, even though she did that trying to save Eloise. Anyways, Colin and Penelope. So along the line, Colin falls in love with Penelope, chases her down on a carriage. Make sure Lord Dublin does not propose to her by creating a scandal. Yes, I mean, cutting their dance in the middle of dancing, that's a big scandal. People were talking. Make sure, that doesn't happen. Compromises her in the carriage. Yeah, basically like I have my stamp on you. You cannot marry any other person now because that's the thing in their age. Once you get compromised by a guy, you have to marry that man. So he is so sure he was going to marry her. And basically that's it. He announces to his family. Everybody is excited except Eloise. And of course they start their honeymoon sort of, he goes to her house, finds out the mother is not pleased. That's Portia is not pleased that Penelope rejected or did not get proposed to by Lord Dupin and engaged to Colin. Colin walks in and overhears that, and he gives Portia Featherington an earful, takes Penelope to their new house to be, and again, compromises my girl. This time around, yeah, he compromises her real bad. Anyways, so of course, Eloise is telling Penelope, you have to tell him you are Lady Whistledown because Colin hates Lady Whistledown. He hates Lady Whistledown so much so that he's like, you know what, we are going to dance on the day she is being rude. Now, the queen also is trying to find out who this Lady Whistledown is, basically. Now, she puts out a £5,000 reward on whoever it is that comes up with useful information to know who Lady Whistledown is. Now, Crusader Cowper is claiming to be Lady Whistledown. Nobody's actually taking her seriously because, like the queen said, aside from observing yourself, what else have you observed? Even her mother was like, I know you, my daughter, you are not that clever. You have many talents, but being clever is not one of it. Anyways, at her engagement party, because of the announcement that Crusader makes that she is Lady Whistledown, Penelope faints. Anyways, the queen tells Crusader, for me to believe you, have to make a publication to show that you are Lady Whistledown. And Penelope and Eloise, knowing that, Crusader is going to definitely come for the Bridgertons, decide, okay, you know what, let Penelope write another column of Lady Whistledown, as she was going to submit that to the printers. Guess who followed her there? Colin. That was where Colin found out that, okay, Penelope is actually Lady Whistledown, and it was intense. He was furious. He was so furious, he was crying. And guys, let me let you know, that was actually real tears because I was watching their media rounds and for promo, and he said the only time he cried, lately is in that scene. Yeah, so he cried, and that was like the beginning of their wahala. Like, Colin was not having it. Even before their wedding, he also was coming back from his bachelor's party. She was coming out from the modiste, who is also like her accomplice, basically, and they jam each other again in the middle of the night. And even though they had to make out, by the streets and all of that, thanks to Kate and Anthony, especially Kate, who actually talked a bit of sense into him. The wedding came, it was beautiful. I cried. That wedding was beautiful. I mean, if you've seen it, you know. And basically that's the story, trying to overcome, Colin trying to find a way to forgive her, yeah, but in a way also wanting her to give up Lady Whistledown. And she's like, you know what, this is my creation, I'm not going to let it go. And basically that's what it's all about. And at the end of the day, she comes out clean. I mean, there's a lot of surprises along the way and all of that, and they live happily ever after. I tried. But basically for me, I learned a lot. Number one, what stood out for me, in fact, the love story for me in this season, it's not just about Colin and Penelope. Their love story is great, but for me is the love story between Penelope and Eloise. Seeing them walk through whatever it is that happened between them, seeing them come back again as besties, that was beautiful. The second or the third love story for me is that of Penelope and her mother. When you watch the other episode from 7, 8, you will know that Penelope and Portia are alike. I know Portia has been painted as the villain. I mean, she has done some things that are not cool, some things that you're like, what? But every time she's doing the best she can, with the little that she has, if that makes any sense. And you can see that this season, and I love the healing that happened in the Fedrington family. For me, I feel like the Fedrington family are way more interesting most times than the Bridgerton. They give us the comic relief. I mean, this season, we see them say the darnest things. It's just like, I remember the scene where Portia was talking to Prudence and Philippa, and she was like, you guys have to like, get an heir, else the title of the Federations will probably go to another person. And in all of that, she was trying to understand if they're actually doing the due to have babies. And Philippa was like, oh, she and her husband, they're always, at it. And as they were talking about it, that was where Portia was like, he inserts himself. And Philippa was like, insert himself? Insert himself where? And Portia was like, what on earth do you and Mr. Finch do? And she says, oh, we kiss, and he makes a weird noise, and he goes to change his breeches. And Prudence was like, change his breeches? You mean his breeches remain on? That was a very hilarious, very hilarious scene. Now, the Frederick things, I hope and pray they are in season 4 because they are a comic relief. Also, we see the friendship between Lady Bridgerton and Lady Danbury. Now, if you have seen Queen Charlotte, you know that these people have been friends, but something also happened in Queen Charlotte. Basically, Lady Danbury had an affair with Lady Bridgerton's father. And it's like that stuff that has been hanging between them. Now, in this season, we see Lady Danbury's brother come into the picture and is interested in Lady Bridgerton. And Lady Danbury was not having it because she and Lady Bridgerton are friends, and she has, bitterness towards her brother. Now, both of them sitting and talking, that scene where they sat and talk, I'm like, this is what friendship should be about. There was no man that could come between these two ladies. At the end of the day, they were like, you know what? You are a great person. You have been there for me. I love you. And that's all I need to know. That was beautiful. Also, between Lady Danbury and her brother, if you also watch Queen Charlotte and the previous season, you also know that Lady Danbury she married a shitty man. Lady Danbury was not the best of men. She didn't want to marry him. She tried to escape when they wanted her to marry him, and her brother, was basically the one that snitched, and they caught her, and she had held this against her brother for years. So they got that healing that they needed between them, and that was beautiful. That scene was also very much beautiful. Another scene that I actually love so much, it's Colin and Penelope working things out. It kind of shows you what marriages and relationships are all about. It's not always, kisses and roses. They had to work out not just who they want each other to be, but they worked out who they are by themselves. It's beautiful. The way they wrote the story is beautiful. Yes, I wanted more Colin and Penelope moments, but seeing them walk through their issues, it's beautiful. They all had each other on a pedestal. Colin, just like Penelope had done before, had Penelope on a pedestal, like she's so perfect, sweet girl, but when he now realized she's this powerful lady, Whistledown, he kind of was envious of her, which he later did admit, because Colin did not know his purpose. He has tried to know what his purpose in life is, but here he is, married to this girl who he thought is just this sweet girl he's going to save. But later realizing Penelope does not actually need anybody to save her. She is a strong, accomplished woman that only needs a man to stand by her and not to save her. And if you watch closely, you see that when the whole Cressida Cowper issue happened and Colin tried to be the hero and save the day like he always does, he goes to talk to Cressida Cowper and it backfires, and Cressida is asking for double and he failed, basically. And it kind of affected his ego, right? But at the end of the day, it was beautiful to see him work it out and say that, what? Penelope does not need saving. She only needs for you to be there for her. You don't have to save people for them to love you. You really don't have to do any extra thing for people to love you. A person that loves you will love you nonetheless. So a lot of people are like, oh, why was he angry with her for an episode and a half and all of that? Why did they let it drag that long? I mean, this guy have hated Lady Whistledown for years. So, I mean, an episode and half of him, resenting or trying to getting angry and all of that, for me, I don't think it's too long. I do not think so. And again, in all of his anger, Colin never stopped loving Penelope. You can see it with his actions and all of that. He never stopped loving her. I also love the fact that Penelope was the one that addressed Queen and the Thorn at the butterfly ball. In the book, it was actually Colin that addressed them, but I love that it was Penelope standing up for herself and speaking for herself. This is something she could not do. If you watch the whole season, you can see that Penelope is that girl that is smart, but she cannot speak up for herself, and seeing her speak up for herself in the presence of the whole town, that was beautiful. And the moment her sister Philippa had to, go and be like, run to Valley and say, oh, the bugs, release the bugs, and the butterflies were released, that was beautiful. And oh, don't get me started on the love confessions. Like, I always look forward to the love confessions of every season of Bridgerton, and this season delivered. This season's love confession is for the powerful women that are being loved by the right men. Yes, that's what I like. I listened to it and I'm like, this is beautiful. Him admitting he was envious of her at some point. Him saying, you know what? If my whole purpose is to be loved or to love this woman, then I'm fulfilled. That was beautiful. That was so beautiful. I enjoyed the story. Like, I don't even know, making this video, I have a lot I want to say, but it's getting too long. I have to end the video, but I enjoyed every bit of Bridgerton season 3. What was your favorite scene? Let me know in the comment section. And if you have not seen it, what are you waiting for? Go and check it out on Netflix. On that note, I'd like to say a very big thank you to you all for being part of my channel. If you have not yet subscribed, kindly click on the subscription button. Click on the notification bell to let you know whenever I post any new video. Until I come your way again, I remain your darling girl, Azine Williams. Have yourself a beautiful, wonderful day ahead.